Hey gang, welcome back to the show, and today I have a very special episode on deck as I allow you to take a peek behind the curtain of Tier 1 trading as we go inside one of our accountability sessions. Now, our accountability sessions are something that we do each and every Friday over at Tier 1, and today I'm going to share with you an interview of, well, probably one of our hardest working traders on the platform. In fact, this guy is so hardworking that it makes me feel like I'm slacking. And you know what? That's the type of people I like surrounding myself with because it keeps me motivated, it keeps me empowered, and it keeps me pushing towards the next level. So this is a pretty long and lengthy session, so make sure you clear about an hour out of your day. But trust me, it is more than worth it, as this trader is going to take you through his journey from struggling to successful trader, give you some tips on really what he's used to help with his trading psychology, including a pretty cool lesson about what he's learned from Alcoholics Anonymous. Not that he was in it, but someone very, very close to him was in it. And, well, those principles apply to trading as well. But a lot on deck. He talks about why he never paid for a training course. He talks about the amount of data crunching that he's done to really elevate his system to the next level. And again, even a talk about kind of the outside factors of hard work, where everyone wants to talk about working hard, but you don't see some of the downside of it and the effects that it can have on your body. So a lot to be discussed. Make sure you bring a notepad so you can take notes, and I hope you guys enjoy.
Okay, so really that brings me to around about 4 years ago, 3.5 years ago, something like that, when I'd set up my business with the property management. I'd done a few other things, but I really wanted to get into something else. I've always been one that could not sit down for more than 10 minutes. I always had to be up doing something. I suppose you could call me the definition of a workaholic. 12-hour day to me is just normal. 15 hours, I still do. 18 hours was what I did when I was setting up my businesses in the past. But in doing that, that actually had a very bad effect on my health, because I was working 18 hours a day during the credit crunch, which was the hardest thing I've ever done. I actually ended up with chronic RSI in my hands and my arms, and I ended up with back problems and neck problems. And if nobody knows what RSI is, it's repetitive strain injury, and it's literally if you sat at your computer and you click the mouse too many times and you type too much, it damages the nerves and the tendons, and you can get a buildup of lactic acid. And eventually what happens, if it gets to the stage where it's chronic, your hands go into a claw. And they were like that for several years, and I was in an enormous amount of pain. I couldn't sleep, and I was just very, very down. But what happened was, we were sat, myself and my wife, watching TV about 4 years ago, and this documentary came on, and it was only an hour documentary, and it was talking about shares within the stock market. And at the end of it, they said that there was a system out there called Plus 500, and it was a free system you could download, and you could trade with a practice account of $30,000. So I downloaded it, and for the month I traded with that $30,000, and you'll never guess what happened by the end of the month. I blew it all. I blew the account completely. I blew the account completely, and I said to my girlfriend, my partner then at the time, Victoria, I said, I am not going anywhere near that again, because I just do not have a clue what I'm doing. And so for an entire year, I did nothing at all to do with the stock market. But literally a year later, there was another documentary that came on. This time it was about Forex trading, and again, it was only an hour's long episode, but they were interviewing this guy who was the definition of somebody who would put the mind to doing something and they would achieve it. And they were certainly not somebody that would fail. From memory, I think he was a contestant in the Mr. Universe competition, and he came like second or something. And this guy, he made £30,000 first of all, then lost it, went back and reanalyzed what he did wrong, and then started again, and he's now a multimillionaire, and he takes on average one trade a day and earns around about £1,000 a day from it.
Nice.
So at the end of that documentary, I said to Victoria, I said, Vicky, I said, that is perfect for me. You know, that would suit me down to the ground. I could work from home. I could work from the computer. I could earn the type of money that I wanted. The tax implications were very good, but I had one big problem, and that was that I hadn't touched a computer for 2 years because I had the problem with my hands. I had this chronic RSI, which I'd seen 3 specialists about, and they couldn't do anything for me. So I said, Vic, do me a favor, spend the day with me on the internet. I want to Google everything about this problem that I have, and I want to fix it so that I can do the trading. So we spent the entire day on the internet, and we found a couple of specialist doctors in America that had special exercises that I should be doing in order to gain movement back into my hands. I mean, just to explain how bad it was, when my son was born, I couldn't hold him, I couldn't wind him, I couldn't hold a bottle to feed him. That was how bad it was. I had insomnia. It was absolutely awful, and that was just through doing too much work in the past and being under so much stress. So anyway, I spent the entire day watching these YouTube videos, and I learned the exercises that day. And then the following day, I set an alarm on my phone to go off every 15 minutes from 9 in the morning till 9 at night. And religiously, when that alarm went off, I did those exercises. Yeah. And after 3 months, I started to get movement back into my hands, and I started to get a little bit of relief from the pain. Now, throughout that 3 months, I was starting to read about what Forex was, how the market moved, why it moved, and really just try and get a basic understanding what Forex was. Well, that took a long time, but throughout that time, I then came across Jason Stapleton's videos, which, as some of you may know, was Trade Empowered, and I was watching his videos, and from that I found out about Akil, and I started watching Akil's videos, and months and months had gone by this time, and what I really wanted to do was advanced patterns, and so they were the cipher patterns, bat patterns, Gartley patterns. They were the 3 that I was interested in. I wasn't really interested in trend continuation or breakout strategies or counter trend trading. For me, those patterns were all I needed. And so by this stage, I had about 70–80% mobility back in my hands, and I was back on the computer. Now, here's the thing. I never paid for a training course through Trade Empowered because I had the belief that I didn't need to. I firmly believe that I would be able to do what Jason and Akil are doing without paying for the training course. In fact, I'd actually done the bulk of it. I'd done the back testing. I'd done a very basic trade plan, which was for the advanced patterns, and it wasn't long before I started trading with real money, and inevitably I blew the account. And so I thought to myself, well, okay, something went wrong. I will go back and I'll redo it again. And I've just got to clarify something here, guys, because I honestly cannot remember the number of accounts I have blown. So I just want to put that out there now. If you say 3, 4, 6, I genuinely don't know. I blew several. And the reason why I never paid for the course was because, again, my mentality is, I believe if you work at something hard enough and you enjoy it, inevitably you'll be good at it. And I just looked at the fact that on the videos that were being posted in YouTube and the syndicate I was following at Trade Empowered, that I could do what they did. And like I said, I did the back testing, all the figures stacked up, I traded, I lost again. And this happened several times. So around about, oh good grief, 2 years ago, maybe 18 months ago, I said to myself, right, what the problem must be is the system I've got for advanced patterns, which was very simple. It was take a back pattern, enter at the 886, stops at the 113. That system, even though the back testing showed it to be profitable, there must have been something wrong. Therefore, I will go and find a better way of doing it. So change the system. So I actually took 6 weeks out of trading, and I built a spreadsheet that compares literally every piece of data imaginable when it comes to those 3 advanced patterns.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'll just give you for instance, it compared 3 different stop placements. It compared a secondary stop being behind the 113. I had 12 currency pairs, the types of patterns, my max drawdown, the max wins, losses, the size of the trade, whether it's under 30 pips, over 40, over 50, over 60, the win rate for target 2s. I even built a system which would give me a percentage chance of whether or not secondary targets would be hit. Okay. To give you an idea of the scale of this, now I'm no expert in Excel. I had to learn all this myself by watching YouTube videos and learn how to code in Excel. I actually have 585 different cells which each compares different data, and I've got around 20 different graphs. And once I'd done that for 6 weeks, I then went and did the back testing, input all the information, and I found a significantly better way, a more profitable way of trading. So I thought, brilliant, I'm going to put real money into it, and I did. And inevitably, once again, I blew the account.
Wow.
Yeah, I blew the account again. Now, I'm not the most intellectual or the most cleverest person in the world, but I am a firm believer that again, if you work at something hard enough and you enjoy it, typically you tend to be good at it. And I certainly enjoy Forex trading, but I couldn't understand what it was. So I'm sure, again, I put more money in and blew the account once again. I'm sure I did that. And then what I did after that was probably...
Chris, what sort of figures are you talking here for the account size?
I'm going to save that till the end, Jason.
Okay. Okay.
I'm going to save that to the end. I'm not going to let you know right now. I'm going to say that to the end. I actually don't know the exact figure. I can give you an indication, but I don't know the exact figure. I'm too scared to go back and look, put it that way.
Yeah.
And
it wasn't until quite recently, well, about 2 years ago, that I worked out all of the costs that I had, endured and donated. It's not a nice. It's not a nice.
Jason, I don't want to do it. The thing is, I will do it. Okay.
Yeah.
I will do it because it will be part of my accountability. But I'm not going to do it now. But I have an idea. So, good grief. So where was I up to? Roundabout. I've lost my train of thought now. So I did the Excel spreadsheet, blew the account a couple of times. Oh, that was it. What I like to do to sometimes figure out a problem that I have is, it sounds a bit crazy this, but this is what I do. I draw a box on a piece of paper, I make it 3-dimensional, and I write inside of it all the problems that I have. And for me, I wrote down all the problems that I was having with trading. And then I put myself in the middle of that box. So I'm surrounded by all these problems. And if you can imagine that in your mind, that you're surrounded with all these problems, you can't see light at the end of the tunnel because of all these problems. So what I then do is I physically take myself out of that box and look at the box from all the different angles, from the side, from the front, from the top, from the bottom, and I write down all the possible solutions. And when I did that, the only thing that was left was that I hadn't accounted for the psychology aspect of trading. Right. Now this is really quite funny because the psychology aspect was the very first thing I dismissed when I came to first look at doing Forex trading, because of my mentality, and I believe, again, I'm the definition of a workaholic. The mentality side never entered my mind because I felt that I was mentally strong enough to cope with anything that this business of trading Forex could throw at me. But when I looked at my box, which I drew out, it was clear that that was the only thing I'd not looked at. And so I started to say to myself, well, this could be the problem. And when I thought about it a bit more, I had made all the classic mistakes of I'd doubled down, I'd moved my stop, I'd moved my targets, I had not been consistent in any way. I mean, there was times, don't get me wrong, when I went into profit and I had a winning streak, but inevitably when I hit those 3, 4, 5 losses, that trigger, that urge to go in and mess everything up kicked in, and that was the reason why I was blowing the account. So I knew at that stage then that the biggest problem for me was the psychology side of it, and that's what I really needed to work on. And so since then I have done quite a lot, to be honest, to work on my psychology. I've got some notes in front of me. This is how sad I am. Sorry guys, but I had to write down some bullet points and some things that I've done to try and help with the psychology side of it. Do you want to hear them?
Yeah, of course, absolutely. Can't wait.
Yeah. Good grief. Okay. So, well, first of all, I should just say that I've been profitable now for about 6 months. I've been getting more profitable as the months have been going on, and here's the kicker for everyone. Since I joined Tier 1, which was I think about 6 weeks ago, I have noticed within a couple of weeks a significant difference in my trading. In fact, last month my month runs from the 15th to the 15th, by the way. Last month was a 700 pip month for me. So the most profitable month I've ever had.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. I'm very pleased with it. But more than that, it was the most consistent month that I've ever had. But within that month, I've still made mistakes and I'm still struggling with the psychology side of things. So yeah, some things that I've done to help with that. Just to explain that, again, I have this personality where I always need to be doing something. So unlike Akil, who is a master at being a lion waiting to pounce on a trade, waiting for his rules to be met and can sometimes wait days, I have the personality where I need to be doing something. You know, sitting here doing nothing is incredibly hard. And so
you're a bit more aggressive.
Yeah, certainly. I'm certainly more aggressive than Akil and you, Jason, although I am again working on toning that down, and I'll actually run through what I've done and how I'm still toning that down. But yeah, so that's what I'm struggling with. This is the psychology, the mentality, and understanding that just as you did your video, Jason, on time versus money, that being in a trade all the time is not trading at all. It's more gambling. And time versus money, in fact, a lot of the time, spending less time in the market can be more profitable than spending more time in it, because you're less likely to want to overtrade and maybe not quite stick to your rules and enter those trades. I have done it. I have probably done every bad thing that can be done with trading, but as a result of that, I learn from that. And so anyway, 5 things that I've done to try and help with the psychology and the mentality. The first thing I did is I used to trade 12 pairs. Up until 2 weeks ago, I reduced that to 10. So I got rid of the pound Aussie. The reason for getting rid of that trade was that over the past 6 months or so, I've really started to change the way I trade from advanced patterns to more trend continuation and breakout. And I found that the pound Aussie had such a high ATR that I wasn't able to get in. My rules for entering a trend continuation wasn't met because the stop loss was too big. And it really didn't offer me that opportunity. It did for the advanced patterns on the smaller time frame.
Yeah, great for patterns on a smaller time frame, yeah.
Pound Aussie was one of my best currency pairs. It broke my heart to get rid of it. But
it's actually replacing Euro Yen for me next month.
Is it?
Yeah.
I love Pound Aussie, but I'm actually now trying to get away from advanced patterns, and I'm seeing myself more as a trend continuation and breakout trader. and there's several reasons for that, which I'll come to in a bit. So yeah, remove the pound Aussie, and I got rid of the New Zealand yen as well. I had too many yen pairs, and it was one of the more underperforming currency pairs. So they're the two I got rid of. So I'm down to 10 instead of 12. That means I'm doing less work in the market, and I'm less likely to miss trades because I'm not looking at 12 pairs. The second thing I did, and I must say to everybody here in Tier 1, it is probably one of the best things I've done, was my trading plan. Now, I did have a very basic trading plan for advanced patterns, but when I came to do my new trading plan, I tried to make it as in-depth and as clear and have everything in it as that was needed. And it ended up being 35 pages long. Some of you that were in the Q&A session a few weeks ago, Akil was kind enough to share that with everybody. But yeah, it ended up being 35 pages long. And 2 weekends ago, I sent it to Akil on the Sunday. And to my surprise, he replied, I think literally within an hour. I couldn't believe it. And he replied, it was a very nice email pointing out a few things that had missed and a couple of errors. And I looked at it and I thought, well, yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll go back and make those changes. Just before I did that, though, and this was on Sunday, I don't know, maybe 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I logged into Tier 1 and I looked for the training material for how to make a trade plan, and Akil had done some. So I watched all of them before I made any further alterations to the trade plan, and I made notes as I went along. And that evening I spent about 6 hours correcting my trade plan, and I had actually made significant improvements on it. That was Sunday, and then on the Monday Akil went through the original trade plan that I'd sent to him, which was actually, I'm really glad he did it, because I was then able to make additional notes. And from there I was then able to build on my trade plan, and the first thing I did was get rid of a lot of the jargon. Because I'd made it so in-depth and so detailed, it actually had the opposite effect and made it very difficult to follow, and it actually made it unclear. And so I scaled everything back. He advised me to use the if-then syntax, which I did. So now my rules are very, very clear within my trade plan. It's still 28 pages long. However, each page is not full. It's only around half a page full, and each page is a section, if you understand me. So it's nowhere near as big or detailed as it was. And now I have crystal clear rules for trend continuation, because this was one of the biggest things Akil picked up on. The trend continuation rules, there were so many of them, and there was no if then, you know, if price action, if we get a lower low in a trend continuation, then enter at market. But it was all over the place. It didn't flow correctly, and his words were, it needs to read like a newbie can follow it. So that's exactly what I did, and I worked on the trade plan. I actually resubmitted it to him last weekend, and with all the alterations, and I had made an awful lot of alteration, guys, to the rules, made it clearer. And he replied saying, yep, significantly better. And he did reply with a question, which, by the way, Akil, I will get back to you on. I've just been very busy. But one of the key things that I actually did as well is on the front page of my trade plan, I've got the content section. And I've reordered those. And the very first one is now called mental preparation. And in order to change my mentality and try and rid the emotion side of trading, I have a set routine that I go through now every morning and throughout the day as well. So this mental preparation, I've got 9 bullet points. I don't know if I should read them out. Do you want me to read them out?
I want you to, I want to know everything. I literally don't want this to end. We'll go on.
It's my accountability, not yours. So one thing that has always worked well for me in the past is never to say anything in your head. It's actually to say it out loud. And when
Which is why we do this session.
But it can be done in anything, whether it's a job you do or it's trading. I actually talk to myself. My family think I'm bonkers. My 8-year-old son thinks I'm crazy just talking to myself all the time. But as you do things in stages, it really helps to physically say it. It helps even more if you have it written down in black and white, because when it's written down, it is then non-subjective in your head.
Yeah.
And so, anyway.
I'm writing a book.
So here's my bullet points, and obviously I've been practicing saying them. I'm trying to say them with more vigor so that they carry more weight. So so bullet point 1, I am a disciplined trader. I am a mentally strong trader. I will eliminate emotions from trading. I am successful in business and trading Forex. I will only trade my strategies that are in my trading plan. I am better than 90% of the other traders. I will stick to my trading times and currency pairs. I will openly and honestly stick to my trade plan rules. Consistent execution equals consistent results. So there's the 9 bullet points.
That is brilliant. And you've just thrown that out to everyone as well. So you've just basically told the whole group and everyone else that watches this all of those statements.
That's what I do, and I don't just stop there. Do you remember I told you the problem with my hands? I mean, I have about 80% mobility back in them now, and I did that by setting my alarm every 15 minutes for 12 hours a day. Well, every hour my alarm goes off, and I have to read that mental preparation out every hour on the hour. And some of the tier 1 members will know, I know this because of what Akil and Jason have taught, is that it takes a minimum of 90 days to break a bad habit and to set new habits. Yep. And so I'm doing as much as I can right now to break the bad psychological habits I have and to really build up the mental strength needed to cope with the winners in the market and the losers. Because for me, it's actually just as hard being up as it is being down in the market, because when I'm up, I don't want to lose, and when I'm down, I want to win. And so for me, it's a never-ending roller coaster, and I just need to find that happy medium. So that's part of my morning routine, what I changed in my trading plan.
Excellent. And you've seen, you say you've seen an improvement in your trading since you joined Tier 1. Is that
significant?
Is that part of the reason, the part that you've got some sort of more clarity around the importance of psychology and how to handle that, or what's
it is.
The main...
Yeah, I mean, when I actually found out that Tier 1 had been created, because as far as I knew, after Christmas, there wasn't another company after Trading Powered. But when it came, but when I came across Trading Powered, I already knew at that stage what the problem was, and it was the psychology. Obviously, I still want to improve my trading, and there are things in there that I can still improve on, there's no doubt about it. But the biggest goal for me right now is the psychology. And when I came across you guys and you'd set up Tier 1, and remember, I'd never paid for a training course beforehand. I spoke to Victoria and I said, you know, I've now become profitable. I said, but if I look back over my trading journal over the past 6 months, and I was able to remove those emotional trades and stick to the plan that I had in my head at the time, I would have earned a significant larger amount of pips than I would have done now. And I said, plus Vicky, I know I'm struggling with the psychology, so I would love to pay for the course, because I think it would be great to really help me get over this this trading problem that I have. And she was like, do it, absolutely do it. She's incredibly supportive, and she said just pay for the year. So I went and paid for the year, and it wasn't. I never really interacted within the chat or did a great deal for the first one, or I think it might have even been 2 weeks. What I did for the first week was I started watching the training videos, and I started from the very beginning, because I thought to myself, if I want to get over these bad habits, I really need to start at the beginning. And from Jason, from you doing the introduction about what a PIP is, to how much money flows through the Forex market, to what brokers are, to Akil talking about candlesticks. Now for me, this was all relatively basic stuff. This was stuff I knew, but I sat through each of the videos and went through them and reaffirmed what I already knew, you know, starting from scratch, making sure I wasn't making any mistakes. And when I first started doing it, I thought, oh, wow, this is fantastic. Jason's videos, they're all under 3 minutes. I can't believe this. And then I get to Akil's, and his one section had around 7 videos, and each of them were 20 minutes long. And I was like, oh, where's the 3-minute videos gone? But that's not a bad thing. Akil, love listening to the videos. Very, very informative. Picked up some things I didn't know, reaffirmed some things I did know, and I think has really helped to concrete that belief in trading about what I already knew. So I started right from the beginning. I'm probably just over halfway through the training now. But the good thing about it is that you guys have done the videos. I have access to them for the next year, and so I can revert back to them at any time and re-watch them, or if there was an area that I wasn't completely sure of, I can always revert back to it. So that's a fantastic thing that, for me, to be able to do.
Awesome. Excellent. I think just before you carry on there, a few observations that I made that are very, very similar. I've got no doubt that you're going to be successful at this, Chris, and I've worked with a lot of traders now, and just the personality traits, like the competitiveness, the discipline that you've got, the fact, you know, you set your alarm just to do the wrist exercises, and even after 3 months, you didn't see the difference until 3 months later. So you actually went for nearly 3 months before you even felt any different. So just to have the discipline to do that sort of thing, and also the fact that you've got a supportive wife, a supportive partner, that is very, very common as well. You know, people that go on to achieve are surrounded by people who support them. I know, yes, I speak for myself and Akil. My wife probably wanted to absolutely kill me deep down, but we find that people who do have success, they typically have those traits and that support as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. And yeah, she is incredibly supportive. So yeah, this is still a training journey for me. There is one other point I just want to touch on, the fifth thing that I'm looking at doing to help with the psychology aspect of it, if I can touch on that. My wife, she's actually in AA, Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm sure lots of people know what that is, and she's been in it now for 5 years. She's been sober now for 5 years, and there's one thing that the AA teaches you, and that's it's a 12-step program. And it's used in AA, but it's used in drug addiction, sex addiction, any type of addiction at all it's used in. And it's used to change the way you perceive life and also your emotional state. If I can just read out step 1, it says that we are powerless over people, places and things. This is step 1. So I am physically powerless over other people. I am physically powerless over places, and I am physically powerless over things. Now, things for me is the Forex market. Sure. I am completely powerless over what the market does. And the sooner I am able to realize that, the quicker my recovery will be, and the more consistent I will be. All I can do is know that I have a trading plan which is profitable. And if I trade it consistently, I will end up with more than when I started. And the 12 steps, there's lots of programs like this out there, and it's all to do, again, about changing your psychology, about it lets you look at your personality, lets you deal with problems that occur on a daily basis, and it really just helps to build up that mental attitude and a mental barrier to deal with those day-to-day emotions. And for me, Forex is an emotional battle, which I have to struggle with all the time. And like I said, there's lots of programs out there that help you, but probably AA is one of the best well known. Now, my wife has one of the strongest mentalities of anybody I've ever met. She would make a phenomenal trader, but trading doesn't interest her. It interests me. If I had her mental strength and capacity, it would be awesome. But she's actually helping me at the moment look into these steps, look at myself, and deal with what's called triggers. Now, in drinking, I hope I'm not going off topic here a bit and boring people, but
no, I think we're thinking about putting this in part of the course.
Well,
carry on.
In the 12 steps, you taught that there's triggers. So a trigger for somebody to drink may be that they're at a Christmas party, they've not drank in 6 months, but they used to drink at the Christmas party, and so they're surrounded by like-minded people who are drinking and having a good time. And so for that individual, that's a trigger for them to drink because it's something they're used to do, and they're in a surrounding full of drink. And that's a reason why they want to go ahead and drink. But what the AA does, it teaches you that is a trigger, and it teaches you how to deal with that emotion when it comes on, and it allows you to realize how to take yourself out of that situation so you know that trigger is not triggered. And it's the same, I look at it the same as trading, is that, you know, you can be trading and you're making a little bit of money, losing a little bit, and then you hit that big drawdown, you know, you're down 5-10% of the account, whatever it may be. That there is a trigger, and that trigger is, I'm going to sabotage that trade, I'm going to double down, I'm going to move my stop, I'm going to move my target, I'm going to enter this trade which doesn't meet my rules. And so she's helping me with that aspect of it to deal with the triggers within the market. And again, it all comes back to my problem, which is the psychology and building up that mental barrier. So that's just, they're the 5 things that I'm doing or have done and still in the process of doing to try and overcome this mental problem that I have.
Wow. So, yeah, Jonathan just said, can we have the 12 steps?
I cannot read them off the top of my head because I'm not in AA. My wife goes on about it all the time, but certainly just Google it. And if you actually just remove the word alcohol from the 12 steps, you'll realize that the 12 steps are just a way of changing your personality, your outlook on life, believing in yourself, and really being able to deal with those emotions that are thrown at you on a day-to-day basis. It took her a year to do the full course because she fully analysed every aspect of her life. And as I say, she has one of the strongest mentalities. In fact, there's a place in Portugal. It's a retreat, you know, where you go rest and relax for a week. It's up in the mountains somewhere in Portugal, and she wants to go and just sit, and you don't eat, you drink smoothies and you do yoga, and there's no internet. Now she wants to go and do that, which is fine, but she wants me to come with her. Now, given my current state of mind, I would jump off the mountain in like 24 hours. I would not be able to deal with that mental pressure of doing nothing, not at this stage, maybe in the future, but not right now. But she's got that mental strength, and that's what I'm working towards. It's one of my goals.
Awesome. Gabrielle asked a question, have you ever considered a specialist on that with the psychology yourself?
No, I don't consider myself a specialist, but I do consider myself, because my wife had been an alcoholic for a long time. It actually happened when I was setting my first business up, and we had 2 babies, and it was an incredibly stressful time for me. But how old was I? 25, something like that. Now, this is quite funny. My mother said to me that, Chris, you need to slow down a little bit because you won't be able to cope with all the pressure that you're under. And I was setting up a new business when we had the credit crunch, and my wife was drinking, and it was pretty bad, and we had 2 new babies, and I was working 18 hours a day. But I said, Mum, it's absolutely fine. I can deal with it. I tell you, mentally, I have no problem whatsoever. Any problem that was thrown at me, I could overcome. And that's the God's honest truth, I could. What I didn't realize was that several years later, all that stress and pressure had a real adverse effect on my body and my mind to a degree. I told you the problems with my arms and my back, and I go for acupuncture twice a week, and I have cupping and physiotherapy and things like that. So it's a bit of, advice to anybody out there. If you are really that hungry to go out and really work and really make a go of it, just make sure that you take regular breaks and stretches and exercise, because that's something I didn't do. I just worked for 18 hours a day, every day for months on end. Literally, I showered like once a week. I had a beard. I was getting up at 5. I was having breakfast at 1 in the afternoon and never had a break, and it just absolutely ruined me. But I'm only an expert, so to speak, because my wife, because she has done the 12-step program and she loves nothing more than to tell me about it. And I used to just nod and agree with her, but now I'm really taking more notice of what she's saying and really going through those steps with her, because it's helping me. I know what the problem is, and so she's helping me with that.
That's excellent. All right, so you've covered a lot there. I mean, you've been over your entire journey. I feel like I know you personally, but it's really, really great to hear your story, and you told us a little bit about your other incomes and stuff, and I think that's a massive advantage that you're able to build. You've built business models. You've generated businesses that have generated income. So you've got that peace of mind. I think that plays a part in keeping you stable as a trader, whether or not you've got cash buffers or another source of income, or you know that you've got the ability to earn money just by that process of creating something and delivering it to a marketplace. That keeps all of those aspects keep us calm, and anything you can do to remain calm as you're going into trading is going to have a beneficial play a beneficial role.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've always lived by the motto that the harder we work, the more we accomplish, and the longer we work, the more money we make. Now, throughout my entire life, I've lived by that. The longer we work, the more money we make.
Sure.
And when it comes to trading, that just isn't the case, and that has been the biggest downfall, because spending 12 to 15 hours in the market, you're going to overtrade, you're going to take trades you shouldn't. And again, my personality is I want to work more because I want to do better. I want to earn more money. And in trading, it has been highly detrimental to my trading, that. And so again, this has been the biggest hurdle for me to really overcome.
Sure. So Chris, just before we we come in sort of towards the end of the session, I'm interested to know, obviously you want to become a successful trader, which I've no doubt you will, but have you got any sort of immediate short-term goals or milestones that you want to tick off?
Really, the main one, more than being profitable, is being consistent. And to be consistent, I then have to treat my trading plan as a business, and really I want to get over the psychology aspect of it. That is really the main reason. But there's another reason why I did Forex as well, and that is throughout everything that I've done in my life so far. I'm only 37, but throughout everything I've done, I cannot shake this feeling that everything that's happened up until now has been, I don't like to use the word luck because I do not believe in luck. Maybe a fluke is better. I have this feeling inside of me that I have to prove to myself that I can do something that the majority of other people can't. And that was another reason why I got into trading, was I really wanted to say to myself, I was able to become a consistently profitable trader, and that is something that I can take with me for the rest of my life, and I can also teach my children, because absolutely I don't want my kids having a 9-to-5 job or even a 9-to-9 job and working those hours that I had to do. I would love to be consistent and then be able to teach them how to do it and give them the freedom. Again, Jason, you really relate to this, is that, trading is about freeing up time.
That's it.
Yeah, that's what I want to do for the kids. I don't want them being stuck in a 9-to-5 job or even having to have a second job just to pay for the mortgage or, keep a roof over the head. So yeah, several reasons, but they're the main two.
Excellent. Yeah, I think I do resonate with that. The reason time's so important is because you can generate much more income if you have more time, and I'll tell you why. Because by having more time, you see opportunities, and you are able to just focus much more on stuff that you find rewarding and fulfilling, stuff that motivates you. And when you do that, you can generate more money in those areas than you can stuck working for someone else or doing something you hate. And I call it sort of the hidden superpower. You sort of realize, wow, I've got something really, really valuable to offer people here. There's lots of people who need this, and I've got it. And you almost create this market that you can then go and serve, and it doesn't feel like work. It's just an absolute pleasure.
Exactly, it's enjoyable, and I may have said this before, but I'm a firm believer that if you enjoy something that you do, you're likely going to be good at it because you enjoy it.
I'm going to touch on that in a minute. Just once we've finished, I'm going to touch on that and why I think it's relative to why you might struggle with the psychology here. But yeah, absolutely. What Chris was saying about having fuel, having a reason to want to do it, that's really important as well. I was talking in the live room the other day about, a guy that I knew. He was stuck in the job, and he had a I think it was his dad. It was either his dad or his stepson, but a family member, someone close, he just found out he had a few weeks to live, right? So this guy's in a bad place, and he had to go to work. Like, the guy was on his last treatments. He had literally 3 weeks to live, but this guy had to be at work. One, because he didn't want to lose his job. His life had to go on, but he really wasn't with it. He didn't want to be at the job. Secondly, he couldn't afford to have the time off. And when I saw that guy, I just thought, I never ever want to be in a position whereby I can't spend. Imagine if someone close to you had 3 weeks to live. You would want to spend every day with them, like every minute with them. And that was one of my drivers. As morbid as it is, I never wanted to be in a position where I couldn't choose to spend time with someone who I wasn't going to see ever again. I wanted to be able to make up my own choice and have enough money and enough time and enough wealth to be able to do what the hell I wanted, because I never wanted to be in that position. So really important to have some fuel to keep you through, to keep you going.
Yeah.
So what the long term? Have you got any sort of long term goal when you want to be? I know it's really just refining your trading now and sort of becoming better and better, which we all are. I'm in that position. Akil's in that position. Yeah. We're all, you never really. Yeah, Go on.
Sorry, I think I was going to finish what you were saying. I don't think we ever really stop learning. I don't believe that there will ever be a master within Forex, because Forex in itself is unpredictable, and you will always be making quarterly reviews and tweaks and changes, so there'll always be room for growth. Yeah, absolutely. That's I'm looking at doing this as well for wealth management and variety of reasons.
Excellent. All right. So Chris touched on luck. I would say on luck, a believer in luck in the sense that most people use that term, but I believe that we're lucky because we live in the time that we're in, and we're able to run this accountability session. Like, literally, we're all in the same room. We live all over the world, and we're able to share information like this. And I think being born, hundreds of millions of years old, the planet, and we are born we're here for about 80 years and 90 years, and I'm born in this time where we can actually connect and help people like this. That is luck. That's the only luck that I would say I believe in. But is there any questions for Chris before we wrap it up? This session, I don't want to say it, but it's been one of my favourites. I have to say, I've really enjoyed it.
Tony, can you start again, Chris?
Tony, you want to catch this one? Go and watch the recording. Can you please tell us the process, how you started the trade plan, what helped you make your trade plan? You want to touch on that, Chris?
Sure, yeah. When I first started trading, I did my own trade plan because I was only doing advanced patterns, which was ciphers, Gartleys and bat patterns, and so my trade plan was very basic. But when I joined Tier 1, I really wanted to embrace what trading was and really get over the fundamental problem I have, which was the psychology, and having a trading plan, or call it a business plan if you wish, whatever you want to call it, was the basis for getting that started. So I did it. I tried to make it as in-depth as I could, sent it to Akil. He came back with some advisory notes. I then went and watched his videos on it, made further improvements. He was kind enough to do the Q&A session. I made further improvements. Now my trading plan I don't think will ever be finished, because as we grow and make quarterly changes, I will probably be making small changes to that trading plan. And I've got to say, it's so important, I believe now, the trading plan, because I touched on this before, having your trade plan in your head is subject to interpretation and emotion. Yep. Having it physically written down in black and white where you can go back and check it before you enter that trade, well, there is no emotion, okay? And that's what I'm starting to do. Now that my trading plan is almost there, I am now starting to do that. And it is another key reason why my trading is starting to get better, because I started developing the trading plan and really narrowing down my entry reasons and all the rules that I have within it.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I completely agree. I mean, I'm always tweaking my trade plan, and that is, it's always going to be tweaked. It's never going to just sit there. I'm always going to be growing. I'm always going to be learning, and always be making mistakes, because if you're growing, you're going to make mistakes. If you're just staying still, you'll probably get to a point where you're not going to make mistakes anymore, because you're just doing the same thing every day. But if you're always growing, you're always going to have mistakes. You're always going to make mistakes, and that's all part of the process. So I've really enjoyed this session, Chris. Thank you for coming on. Is there anything else you'd like to say? Is there any anything else you'd like to add?
A couple of things, yeah. I just want to say to any newbie trader out there that really just take on board what Jason and Akil say. Go through the fantastic Tier 1 system that they have and the training videos that they have. But go back and do your back testing, because that is what really reaffirms your trading plan and how you're going to trade and be profitable in the future. And I think lastly, I just want to thank you, Jason, and you, Akil, and pretty much all the Tier 1 members out there, because I wanted to become vocal within Tier 1 purely for the accountability. My nature, my personality is not one of, I'm not a very loud person, but I wanted to hold myself accountable. In fact, just before I started posting my trade ideas online to hold myself accountable, I was a bit worried about doing it, and I sent Akil an email just saying that, I'd like to post my trade ideas on there. Would that be okay with you? Because I was a bit concerned, because there wasn't too many people posting trade ideas, and I didn't want people thinking, I don't know, maybe I was showing off a little bit, but whatever the reason was, it certainly was not that. It was simply because I wanted to hold myself accountable. And to be honest, it's worked, because was it this week? Was it last week? I posted a trade idea on there. I think it was a breakout in a flag, and I was looking for an entry reason. And Cody replied saying, Chris, you have a cipher pattern there. And I went back and looked, and there was my entry reason for it. So I added the cipher and reposted the trade idea. Now here's the key thing, is that every time now I do my analysis, just before I leave that currency pair, Cody pops into my head and says to me, double check what you've just done to make sure you've not missed anything.
There you go.
So really the community is fantastic. I would strongly advise anybody, post your trade ideas on there. It doesn't matter if it's right or wrong. I've posted on there and they've been wrong, you know, and I get feedback from traders that have been trading a long time, traders that haven't been trading a long time, but no matter which way you look at it, I get feedback and information from all parties, so it's a win-win for me.